So, what were you doing in the summer of '94? Howdy, I'm Jeff Goldsmith, Senior Editor for Creative Screenwriting Magazine, and yeah, summer of 1994, that's the setting for this week's film, The Wackness, written and directed by our guest, Jonathan Levine. As I said in my review in CS Weekly, as part of the coverage for the LA Film Festival, you could, of course, read CS Weekly for free. It's our opt-in email newsletter that comes out every Friday. Just go to www.creativescreenwriting.com to check it out. Anyhow, as I said in my review of The Wackness, there's no other way to say it. I think it's exemplary writing. It's great comedy writing. It's tight. It has a very strong emotional impact. It really handles a lot of elements just right, and I think that it is completely worthy of a writing nomination, without a doubt, because it's good writing. There's no other way to say it. So at the end of 2008, when people are kind of taking a look back at what was good writing this year, I certainly hope The Wackness will not be overlooked. Without a doubt, go judge it for yourself. It's opening in theaters July 4th. In Los Angeles and New York, and then spreading throughout the rest of the nation. But really treat yourself, because there's so many things that are done just absolutely right in this film, and it's all so simple. And it takes a lot for a writer to edit things down to a level of simplicity, but a level that really works. Of course, if you're curious what's in our latest issue, you could go to www.creativescreenwriting.com and find out all about it. There's an article about The Wackness in our latest issue, among other things. You could also look for Creative Screenwriting Magazine in Barnes & Noble and Borders bookshops in Canada, the United States, and Western Europe. And hey, guess what? We've launched our Screenwriting Expo website, y'all, so don't forget to check it out, www.screenwritingexpo.com. It is going to be a huge event. We are constantly adding more guest names to that list, so make sure to check back often. And I will have a discount coupon code for podcast listeners that I will list at a later date. But now, without further ado, let's jump right onto the stage of our sold-out screening right after I introduced writer-director Jonathan Levine to discuss his latest film, The Wackness. Okay, we always start with breaking in stories. When I interviewed you for the magazine, we talked about the fact that you interned for Paul Schrader, the screenwriter of Taxi Driver, as we all know. Was that your breaking in? Do you consider that internship kind of a breaking in point?
No. I mean, I was just getting him coffee and stuff.
But it was your first exposure, technically, to the industry.
It was. Well, I'd done internships before, but...
Where else, out of sheer curiosity?
I interned at Miramax. That was kind of a nightmare.
A lot of yelling?
A lot of yelling at interns. A lot of yelling, like trickle-down yelling, like everyone got yelled at. And then I interned at New Line. This is like one throughout college. And then after college, I worked for Paul Schrader. I don't know what the kind of breaking in point was. I think it was working for Paul Schrader. I then decided that as much as I admired him, as much as I was learning being around him, he was never going to let me direct one of his movies. So I decided that I should go to film school after that. And I think that was really the breaking in point.
I think it's great that you interned. What was the most important thing that you kind of gleaned from all that? A lot of people kind of coast through school without interning and don't realize that when you get out, that opportunity's kind of gone a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got the lay of the land a little bit, and just sort of figured out kind of the business side of things, and also the division of labor, which is always very shocking. Like when I first got to film school, even though I did have some sort of initiation to it, the fact that it was so rigidly divided to me was very interesting. What else did I learn?
Schrader's a great writer. What'd you learn from him?
I would sort of just, I guess I just learned about his worldview really more than anything else. When he was writing, he would never write on a computer because he thought it did too many different things. He wanted something that just did one thing. So he always would type on a word processor. And then he would hand the pages to me, and I would retype them into Final Draft.
Wait, so what word processor was he using? Like an old school
weird old
Corona,
fucking thing? Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. And he would sometimes, he would smoke cigarettes sometimes, and he never smoked any other time, but he would smoke. And I would just stand in the door and be like, "Man, you're cool." And then he would hand the pages to me. So it was kind of like being exposed to his process in real time in a way. I remembered that he did that. It was cool.
You told me that one of the habits that you kind of like observed of his that kind of rubbed off on you that is, really a basic thing, but I think cool is, the concept of writing down something every time you have an idea. You had said, talk about that.
Well, two things that I learned actually. He had files, and I would, every time he would leave the office, I would kind of sneak in and look in his files. And he had handwritten, yellow legal pad notes for everything: Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, American Gigolo, Light Sleeper, all these amazing films. And the thing I learned is that he knew what was going to happen on page 115 before he even started writing. He knew what was going to happen on every single page. Which is a very disciplined way to write and not a way that I have any clue to do. And then the other thing is, he would have this, anytime he had an idea, he had one Word document that was just basically his ideas, whether it's lines or like a scene or whatever, and so no idea would go unwritten.
That's awesome. I mean, so is that what you did, a Microsoft Word document that you kind of created that you would just put your ideas down on?
Yeah, but I have them all sorts of different places. Now I have an iPhone, so I have some in my iPhone. Sometimes I leave myself voicemails. And then every once in a while, I sort of will consolidate it into a document.
You got to iSync, man. Come on. The new iPhone could do that.
I don't fucking want the new iPhone because I just bought one, and now it's like a third of the price. And
I'm so buying one on July 11th.
My God, I'm so mad.
I know.
No, you'll buy one, and then 6 months from now, there'll just be a chip in your head for $20. And you'll be able to just fucking press your head and dial things.
But I'm a stockholder, so that excites me.
That's why. Yeah, that's good.
It's part of the big plan. So you went to AFI after Schrader, right? Talk about that experience. It's a 2-year school, basically.
Yeah, it's the thing I really liked about it was that we were making a lot. It was really about production. So in the first year, you make 3 films. They're scrutinized by your colleagues, and then the second year you make 1 film, like 1 thesis film, and but you're really kind of girded against criticism, or you learn how to accept criticism and have a dialogue in a critical forum, and you also you learn by doing. You have the opportunity to just keep making things, which is great.
It was there, I believe, that you made Shards. Is that correct?
Yes, I made a short film called Shards, for which I won the American Black Film Festival Director Award. They were very surprised when I went to pick up the award. But it was cool. No, I co-wrote it with a colleague who's African American, so he gave me street cred, but it was weird.
Sneaky. I like that tactic. Love Bites was your next film, and it was kind of about internet dating, but if I'm not mistaken, for yourself, right?
Yeah, it was after. Well, I did this short, and then
I'm not trying to get you dates tonight. I'm just pointing out.
I mean, that's cool. I can give you my iPhone number. Anyway, yeah. So basically, I did that short, and then I graduated from film school, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with myself. I answered a Craigslist ad for this guy who said he was a producer, and he had a house in the Valley. I went to his house, and he was an immigration attorney, and I would answer his phones. But I had to. I didn't have any money, and I was like $150,000 in debt. So
is that what film school set you back?
Yeah.
Here we are at the LA Film School. So
I think this place is less expensive, right, than that.
I actually don't know.
I have no idea. Anyway, it was
$150,000.
Well, I shouldn't say that. It was like $30,000 a year. I might have been adding in some of my undergrad things. 2.5 years.
Okay, 2.5.
Plus, I was borrowing money for rent and all that stuff, like private loans and stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So you were answering phones. So then what happened?
Okay, so I was answering phones. So then, basically, based on my short, I guess Audi was doing this thing where they were inviting short filmmakers to submit their shorts and say what they would do if they got an Audi and were asked to chronicle a trend across America. So I said I would chronicle internet dating, and I went on internet dates basically across America, and I taped myself doing that, and then it became this 15-minute webisode, and it's totally embarrassing.
What did you kind of learn from that experience? Because, I mean, tonight's film, which we're going to get to in a second, it is somebody kind of looking for love. Did you get an inkling?
It's similar thematically, yeah. And shockingly, I don't end up with anyone. You would think you meet a girl on the internet, she consents to be filmed. That's a quality woman. No. No interest. So yeah, it's similar thematically in sort of the love story version of it.
Now, All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. That's technically your first feature because it was shot before this.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about kind of that idea and how people could see it, because I was searching around Netflix the other day and I still can't find it.
No, I mean it's on the internet by accident, I guess. Someone put it up. I don't recommend seeing it like that. It's a shaky camcorder from a UK theater. Yeah, that's a movie I shot 3 years ago, and we sold it to the Weinsteins, and we got kind of caught in this. They didn't crush us the way they crush a lot of people. They actually sold it to somebody. But I read on the internet that it was coming out. No one told me. So I was like, well, we should probably figure out a better solution. So we actually ended up finding a new distributor, and they have not yet released it. But yeah, it's weird because I did it 3 years ago, and then a movie I did 8 months ago is coming out in 2 weeks. So it's strange.
Everyone I know that's seen it loves it. Give us the pitch of like what the concept was.
It's basically like a bunch of kids go out to a ranch. See, it's gonna sound really boring if I just because it's not. It's a bunch of kids go out to a ranch for a party weekend. They're spring of high school, and they start to get killed. That's it. That's really it. It's not that high a concept.
Getting killed in the woods, not that
but
boring.
it's kind of like a high school movie meets a slasher film in a way.
And that started your relationship with Occupant Films, is that right? The producers
Yes.
of Tonight's Film?
Yes, exactly.
So when did you get the idea for the Wackness?
I wrote it. I think I wrote the first sort of 30 pages in film school, in like a development class, and it was always that first scene. That was always the first kind of the basis for the whole movie.
That being of marijuana for
the exchange of the marijuana for the therapy was my inspired notion that I kind of wrote everything around. But everything else kind of changed and evolved, and that scene always very much stayed the same.
So when did you decide to pursue it out of all the other ideas?
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. So then I decided to... Well, the guys who made Mandy Lane, they wanted to make another movie with me. And so I showed them the script that I'd been working on. They really liked it. So we decided to move forward with it. And kind of... I worked with one of the producers on kind of honing it and continuing to work out. Like, we did like 10 more drafts after it got to them. And then we decided to go ahead with it. We got to a point where we were very happy with it. We sent it around to all the agencies, and they liked it. And then we sent it to Ben Kingsley, and that was kind of when it became a movie.
People think of that as kind of like an unapproachable moment. Like, I'm going to send my script to Academy Award winner Ben Kingsley. Well, I mean, how easy or how difficult was it to get something that wouldn't seem like it would be right for him, but of course with your movie it's so right for him?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like I was just kind of putting it in an envelope and licking it and then sending it. I mean, we were able to get CAA behind the script, which is big because they control the whole fucking world. So we got them behind it, and then Kingsley's agent was really into it and was really into the idea. And I think he's making a conscious effort to kind of appeal to a younger audience. So we were consistent with that, and that was that was the biggest challenge. We had sort of climbed over the wall and been in. Otherwise, I don't know how I would have done it if the agents hadn't been given us access to him. But he reads a lot of scripts, and he reads them very quickly. So it's not like we were waiting around for him. He got it, and plus we had financing, so we were able to say we're going to pay you this much amount of money, which is compelling too. And he got and read it, and then I went up to Vancouver to meet with him.
What was that meeting like? I mean, that would seem intimidating on the surface. But
I was terrified. I was really scared. And I went.
Did he give you notes? Like, what was it like to get notes?
No, it wasn't. He doesn't do that. In fact, on set, he just wants to do. If he even gets one word wrong, the script supervisor, he wants the script supervisor to come up to him and tell him that. I asked him if he had any notes, of course, because I would have changed the whole fucking thing just to put him in. Yeah. I would have been. Okay. So anyway, he said no. And that was cool. He was very much supportive of the script as it was, and very much my advocate. In the face of any adversity that you inevitably face on an independent film. But when I met him, I was very scared, and he had this wonderful smile, and I just immediately relaxed, and he's just very down to earth, and it was wonderful.
I mean, you wrote a great role, and he was really he played it well. Talk about just going back for a second to the writing of it. The title. I mean, obviously, it comes from the line, "I look at the dopeness, and you look at the wackness." When did you decide to call it the Wackness?
Well, actually, I called it the Wackness first, and then I struggled with figuring out how to put it into the movie. Because I hate it when the people in the movie, they say the name of the movie in the movie. I really don't like it, but we actually had a couple different versions. At one point, Method Man was saying it. At one point, Olivia was saying it. It felt best to have Olivia say it, I think. But the title came first, and then I think I sort of a lot with this script was just sort of meandering and then finding my way, and then sort of retroactively endowing things with significance, and then giving it a through line kind of the second or third time through, and that was one of those things.
Having a mentor friend is inherent to the coming of age genre, and you did something really interesting here in which you actually mirror the moments in their lives through their relationship, in which Squires is trying to rekindle the love in his marriage as Luke is falling in love, and the breakup is happening at the same place. Talk about just building that really dynamic relationship and kind of mapping it all out. Or did you in the outlining phase? Or did you?
No, I didn't map it all out. This is why I don't recommend writing like this. It's a very undisciplined way to do it. But for me, I kind of had to write first and then go back and sort of give it a structure. And that ended up working for this. But when we were doing that kind of, like when they go to Fire Island and we're juxtaposing the two relationships, that just sort of happened. And then that's where it happened the first time through the script. And then I went through and sort of made it happen more. But I think it's sort of, a lot of it is just kind of my subconscious welling up and me sort of figuring out a way to filter it into a reasonable kind of narrative. So
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's cool. So I mean, when you sat down to write, like, how many hours a day would you write for? Talk about your habit.
I think I would write. When I was writing, I would write a lot. When I was writing, I would write, full on days. But I would do that for weeks at a time, and then I wouldn't touch it for a long time. And then, let's say I did maybe a month of intensive writing every 6 months, and would have to, just because of the nature of the process, I would have to step back and look at it. And then once the producers came on, they put me through a lot of shit. I had to write all the time and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite.
So how long was that process, would you say?
That part was like 6 months. That was like 6 months straight.
And to get to that point before you showed it to the producers, the draft?
2 years probably.
2 years on and off? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you do when you get writer's block? Everybody kind of handles it differently, or do you not get writer's block?
I either just keep writing. If it's a deadline situation, that's always very helpful. Or I just stop writing.
Hey, you retreat. All right, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to do is kind of make little notes, and I write a bunch of little handwritten things, so that when I actually start writing, like, it's just the inspiration is already there, and then I just stop when I've stopped. I write a lot at once. Like, I can write like 20, 30 pages at a time. They might suck, but I can do it. And so when I'm not feeling it, at least I've already written 30 at a time. So whereas if some people write 5 at a time, I can write 30 at a time, maybe take 5 days off.
I like it. That's a plan. I like it. You talked earlier about getting a lot intense notes from the producers during that 6 months. Do you remember some of the changes that the script went through at that point that were like based on helpful notes?
I mean, a lot of the changes were just from sort of banging your head against the wall until you make it in. I mean, we knew what we wanted to do with the scene, or we knew what we wanted to do. Let's say we wanted, something to happen in the second act, or to amp up the tension, or the kind of there was the scene where Luke and Squires get in a fight, and they kind of call each other on all their shit. Like, that was a very late addition. And I think that was very helpful to me, to sort of have the structure where we could have that kind of conflict and kind of ground it in just like, all right, they can just yell at each other and we can just do that. I don't have to dance around it. I was a lot of it was just trying to avoid stuff that I'd seen before, or at least avoid giving answers. Like, we were just hopefully trying to ask questions as much as possible. So that is inherently difficult to write when you're not providing answers. I'm kind of digressing, but I guess the the point is they helped me kind of translate that sort of amorphous thing into action in a way.
That's cool. So I mean,
I don't like plot. Like I really don't. I don't like plot. So they helped me give it a plot too.
I mean, it's incredibly lean. I mean, the breakup scene for Dr. Squire's divorce has 2 lines. It's "I want a divorce." Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so lean.
Yeah.
But it's conveyed through the actors so well. It was impressive.
Well,
because it could have been a lot of bad monologues in there.
Yeah. No. If you get good actors, that makes your life a lot easier. That was always like that. Some of the stuff was longer and we cut it. But a lot of it was very much, just
That's
very
good.
pithy.
You were talking about the actors a second ago. It's interesting because Josh Peck was fantastic. Absolutely. The character of Luke, he's a loner. No luck with the ladies, really. Doesn't have any friends. But you look at Josh Peck, and I mean, he's instantly likable. Was that something you had to battle in your casting of?
Yeah,
might have gotten a guy
think
that's too cool for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely a concern when we cast Josh, was that he's too good looking and he's too kind of together. I mean, the way we tried to get around it, and the notes I kind of tried to give him were that I wanted to see. I think a lot of times in high school or in any social structure, it's very kind of arbitrary who's cool and who's not, and sometimes it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if you're uncool in high school, then you are so nervous that you act uncool, and then that cements you as uncool. So I think he could be uncool for something that happened to him in like 7th grade. And so I just asked him to sort of, as much as I could see the wheels turning in his head, like every move in that social setting is so deliberate. I thought that would be one way to skirt it. But definitely on the page, I didn't picture someone like Josh, but then when he came in, he totally changed my perception of it.
In the movie, obviously, psychology is part of it. I mean, by the end of the movie, Luke wants to be a psychologist. It's interesting because you examine it from both talk therapy and drug therapy of pills, and Dr. Squires himself kind of goes back and forth. What are kind of your views on that? Because it's something that's debated a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that was also going on in '94. I think psychopharmacology was definitely becoming more and more prevalent. I think for me that was sort of a response. A lot of times in movies, I think you see someone and they go off their medication and their life becomes this fantastic thing. And I have a lot of friends who are on antidepressant medication. I don't think that was ever an experience that they had, so I wanted to very much say, I wanted to look at it and say, each person in this movie has their own coping mechanism, whether it's antidepressants, whether it's weed, whether it's sex or money or whatever, and just not sort of not judge it in any way. And so I don't know what the answer is. For I think the Kingsley character, he realizes that if he doesn't take that stuff, he's going to completely fall apart. And I think the one of the few responsible things in the movie is not that he does is not allowing Luke to go on it when Luke sort of begs him for it. So I think it's really about what works for you, and I didn't want to ever try to judge that.
You told me for the article in Creative Screenwriting, which hasn't come out yet, it's in our July issue, that you have an interesting process for dialogue. Talk about that.
What'd I say?
You like to talk it out. You like to act it out.
I mean,
you said you like to act it out with your girlfriend, basically. That's what
that's kind of a personal sexual thing that we do. Shit, she's going to be so pissed that I said that. It's totally not true at all. Basically, every once it gets to a certain point, we will read it through and do some voices, yeah. But I'm not sure. And I will make notes, but that's kind of more, actually what that really is more for is pacing. Okay. I think with dialogue, I give the actors a lot of freedom as well. So I would rather have like really long takes that I completely cut down just to get that kind of authenticity and that naturalism than be hyper vigilant in the notes I'm giving them. I would rather make mistakes on set and then just deal with it in the editing room in a way, because I don't want to be all over them with notes and have them question their own instincts, Yeah.
I thought the dialogue was excellent. Of course, there's great lines like, why are you here? And they're in prison, in the holding quarters, and the guy says, I stabbed my wife in the pussy.
Yes.
How do you come up with that?
How did I come up with that one?
Shakespeare. No, I mean, it was
actually,
really
a friend of mine was in the Tombs, And the exact same way he was trying to use the payphone, and
the Tombs are that jail.
The Tombs are it's a jail in New York City where in the early '90s especially they were putting a lot of homeless people in, and there were paddy wagons that were traveling around. And if they saw someone on the street smoking a joint, or I don't know what the extent was, but reasonably petty crimes, they would throw them in the paddy wagon and take them to the tomb. So his friend was on the. My friend was there, and there was a scary guy on the phone, and he tried to use the phone. And the guy said he didn't say he didn't say that. He said something much less extreme. But then I took it and made it.
Took it to the next level. All right, that's good. For a film that concerns music as much as it does, were you writing with songs in mind? And if so, I've heard a lot of nightmares about young filmmakers that actually don't clear the rights before they start production. They end up in a whole nightmare. So what was your experience like with music rights?
We wrote with types of music in mind, not, or artists in mind, but nothing very specific. I knew I'd had, just through my experience with a short and my first film, that how difficult it was. So I didn't want to write myself into a corner with music. What I do like to do sometimes, though, is if I think something's really good, I will put it in. The idea is you're not supposed to put it in because you don't want to fall in love. But I want my producers to fall in love with it so that they have to pay for it.
That's smart.
It also stems from the fact that my producers have their hearts in the right place, and I'm just purely taking advantage of them. But I do like to do that. But we had songs in this. I wrote songs into the script that were almost less prominent than the songs here because I didn't think we'd be able to get them. And then we had this fabulous music supervisor and a lot of positive input from the hip hop community. We were able to get a lot of these things, like better things than I had even written into the script. So I think it's just a testament to the fact that no one's really used this music before, at least not in 15 years in movies. So we were lucky, I guess.
At what point was the music supervisor brought on? I'm guessing it was before you were shooting?
Yeah, he was brought on before we were shooting because we needed to get the Biggie stuff, and we needed to get Bismarcky. They're singing Bismarcky in a shot. So we needed.
Tribe Called Quest is obviously mentioned prominently.
Yep. So we needed to get all that stuff before we even started.
That's great. Talk about your budget and your schedule for a second.
Our budget was, I think, between $5 and $6 million. No one tells me. I was given $5, and then I fucked up and I went over.
What happened? What happened?
Oh, I don't know. It was just not enough money. So, so I pretended it was, and then we spent more. And I said,
did you do a reshoot?
I'm sorry.
Was it a reshoot?
No, we didn't do any reshoots. That was the one thing they told me is no reshoots allowed.
So
that's why. So we overshot during the shooting. In retrospect, if we had reshot, it probably would have been cheaper.
All right, that makes sense. And what was your schedule?
We had 28 shooting days and 2 days where we just kind of went around with Josh, like verite, roving camera style, with a very streamlined crew. But 28 days of full crew.
Obviously, a great scene in the movie. With Luke concerns losing his virginity, and he cries during that moment.
That's him. That's. At the end of, we were doing that at the end of a week, and I guess that was the last take we did, and it's all one take, so it's they're really kind of in an uncomfortable situation for a long time, and I guess on the last take, Josh said to Olivia, he was like, "I'm gonna cry, and you ask me if I'm crying," and they did that, and I was standing by the monitor, and we had to cut that shot right when we did because I started laughing so hard, and I was so happy. That is one ad lib that made it, and the other one is when Kingsley says to Mary Kate that he's one of the three bears.
And he's Baby Bear?
Yeah, and he's Baby Bear, which is it's very funny because Kingsley for so long resisted ad libbing, and I was giving I gave everyone pretty much free reign, and he was very much about the text, and that's because he kind of approaches it in this very classical style, But that night, he was in a very playful mood, and it was amazing because he came up with that line. I was like, not only is he the best actor ever, but he's the best ad-libber ever, and he just did it once. It's amazing. So that was funny.
Obviously, the great part of the coming-age story is, dealing with the heartbreak and kind of growing up through it. Was this based on anything autobiographical in your life?
I mean, a lot of it is based on, nothing's specific, but a lot of it's based on the spirit of things that happened or feelings that I felt or a worldview that I held. I mean, definitely the music and all the kind of period details are very much culled from my own memory. As far as like the heartbreak thing goes, I mean, definitely there's, it's like kind of a, like in like JFK, it's like a composite, several women. I think that it's actually a credit to Olivia because I think I'm not quite at the point where I know how to write women very well, and I think she filled in the blanks so well that I almost understood more about the women who I thought had broken my heart, but I understood where they were coming from, and so in watching Olivia, I sort of was able to forgive them.
Talk about that scene, where he tells her just not to speak. Again, you're cutting out a bunch of really bad monologues. And he just says, "I just want to remember what it's like to have my heart broken." It was so simple and so lean that it worked very eloquently.
Well, thank you. We had to. I mean, at the end, I didn't want anything big to happen. I certainly didn't want them to be together. And I thought that the best kind of completion of his arc would be for him to sort of own his own pain or his own heartbreak, and therefore kind of empower himself and liberate himself. So that was for me the way to do it, and it was very much kind of what Dr. Squires was telling him was embrace your pain and make it a part of you. And I think that once he does that, that's really he's able to kind of move on.
His parents, his relationship with his parents is interesting. How he's kind of the adult taking care of them.
Yeah.
You have him selling off all that pot to try and save his parents' debt. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a point in your script where that was a bigger story element and he made it and he was able to save the day? Or
I mean, there were various points in the script where bigger things happened, where let's say he almost got arrested or there was like, a violent altercation with the drug dealer and stuff, and it just didn't feel like the right movie for that stuff. So yeah, there were bigger things, and you always kind of have an instinct to want to go more plotty with things, just because it's scary not to. But I'm glad we resisted that.
You could tell you really had fun making this movie. There were interesting little dream sequence moments, like he's dancing after their big first date, and it's like Thriller, and the sidewalk's lighting up, and then there's the finger that's going through the city all the way to the phone call, and even that opening title dream sequence. Was that all scripted as was?
It was all scripted, actually. There was even more of it in the original script. In fact, there was a scene where he's sitting on the roof and he's looking down at the party, and it turns into this big, like, kind of Bacchanalian orgy, right? Oh, we cut that. But it's a really good deleted scene for the DVD.
All right. So you were just balancing it out, basically.
Yeah, I mean, just.
There's also the moment of him masturbating. And on the beach, you see that he's still in his clothes in bed.
Right. It was. I wanted to get into his head, but then after a while, I sort of realized it was more about the relationships between him and Kingsley, and less kind of told. It's very much a point of view issue, and so I think often that would put us too much in his point of view. And so once I sort of got to the end and looked at it, it's a balancing act. So I think we cut a little bit more to sort of broaden the point of view a little bit.
You told me that you felt that they met kind of at the wrong point in their lives, and maybe it would have been better if they had met 10 years later for that relationship.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little. I mean,
they'll find each other on Facebook.
Sequel, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It'll just be people typing. I think that for them, yeah, it was just the wrong time. I think maybe 10 years from now, because it's just when you're writing for teenagers, it's also you want to be aware of what the limitations of their life experience are, so that you're not making them either more precocious or less precocious than they should be. And I think that. That sort of I don't know, that just felt very true to me, that this girl doesn't want to break his heart. In fact, I think she really does care for him, but it's just not the right time. There's so much life ahead of them.
I actually like the concept that they hook up on Facebook. What was the toughest scene for you to write? The one that really you kept going back to?
Wow. I think a few of those psychiatry office scenes I think were very difficult, and they would get rewritten and rewritten, especially the ones where I couldn't just get out of it with a quick joke or something like that, where I had to actually because I'm not like, I don't like being very emotional with people and stuff. Like, you know, if I like someone, I guess I'll tell them, but they probably have no idea if I like them. And so it's very, that kind of comes across in the writing. Like I try to open up, and it's very much a conscious effort to open up, but I shy away from being exposing too many raw nerves. So I think a couple of the scenes where they're really talking about how they feel probably freaked me out a little bit.
All right, that's fair enough. You chose a really interesting ending point. Kind of, you know, Luke tossing a cigarette at the camera at a train station. We don't know if he's going to college, going to see Squires, where he's going. Talk about just that final moment, the construction of it.
That's in the script. He flicks it and we go to black. I don't know. I think it's very much just about the tone and mood of moving on, not so much about where he is specifically going. I like the kind of element of the train, and I like the fact that he's leaving people behind. And I don't know, I just always had that idea that it was kind of getting colder out, and that he was going to be very much all alone at that point, but yet in a way contented that we had never seen him before.
You said that like two of your favorite films are City Lights and Manhattan, and that was kind of influencing you.
They have these great kind of existential endings that are also very unhappy, I guess. I mean, City Lights, Manhattan. The ending of Manhattan is very similar to the ending of City Lights, but the ending of Manhattan is much more kind of in our contemporary film language, and it's much easier for me to talk about. I just think it's so incredibly beautiful the way he. First of all, he figures out that she's the one for him, but maybe not even, and he's been kind of like, we don't know who the one for him. And so he runs to her, and she's Mariel Hemingway. She's about to go off to Paris, I guess, and he basically just gets left all alone, and he learns something, and it's just this beautiful combination of romance and bittersweetness, and I think that's a lot of what life is and love is too, and it's also about our own kind of perception of it. So yeah, that's the kind of ending I really like, even though it's really bleak and depressing.
You show the image of the World Trade Centers. Obviously, it's a period piece, 1994. Talk about your decision to do that. Was that in the script? Was it always?
Yeah, that was in the script too. It was really just.
Why at that moment in the film, so late towards the end?
I don't know. I think that's where the tone is kind of this climax of bittersweet nostalgia, and that to me is like the ultimate. Oh shit, things are not like they used to be, you know, and that's what our characters are going through too. I think I think it's important to have it just because it is one of the biggest things that is no longer with us from that time. But I also think it would have been weird just to have it in the background of any sort of scene. I think consistent with the tone of the end is we're thinking about things that we've lost, and that's why it's there.
You won the Audience Award at the 2008 Sundance Film Festival, deservedly so, by the way. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
What was it like, your whole Sundance experience of going there and selling the film? Because
it's intense, man. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of things when you get you get the opportunity to make a movie you wrote, or you get the opportunity to have Ben Kingsley in it, and then you start you're like, oh, now my dreams come true. That's awesome, and then it's like, oh shit, no. This part about it, and there's all these things that come with it. Sundance is very intense and very much about your movie, both as a piece of commerce and a piece of art, or whatever, piece of shit. I don't know, whatever people think, but it's very much about selling the movie. And so the whole time I'm a neurotic, nervous wreck about selling the movie and not able to enjoy the fact that the audience was really responding to it, which they were. And the kind of the last night when we got the award and we kind of closed the deal with Sony, that was the ultimate release. But I remember when we first got there, there was I guess someone gave a speech. And they said, be very cognizant of focusing on, what it's all about, which is that the lights are going down and there's going to be a bunch of people watching your movie and hopefully they're going to like it. And that would be my advice to anyone going, is ignore everything else other than, sitting in a movie theater watching a movie, because that's what film festivals are about.
I think it was great that the folks at Occupant, funded this, let you bring your dream to the screen. Were they rewarded? I mean, I haven't seen a published sale price.
We sold it for I think $2 million, and then we sold the rest of the world It was. I don't think they made money.
But I mean,
yet.
if you made it for 5 to 6, you sold it for 2. That's a loss.
And then it's a loss. And then you sell the rest of it to the rest of the territories. I don't know how much they made there. It's still not in the black, red, whatever the good one is. It's still not there.
Black's good.
Yeah, and then but hopefully it will be. If it does well in theaters. It was a very difficult year for selling movies. There were amazing films that sold for virtually nothing.
Yeah, I was in shock because it won the Audience Award. I think it's a great film, and I was in shock it didn't get its prize.
Man, it's like now it costs like so much money to release a movie, and it was the Sundance before they had bought movies for hundreds of millions of dollars that did nothing at the box office. So I think it's as much as it's a wonderful the independent film world is wonderful. I think it's also sad to say a dying breed. It becomes so much more imperative with the marketing dollars that people have to put into it that these movies are much less risky and much less personal and all that stuff that I think it's very difficult. I mean, independent films, the independent spirit especially is going away. I think. I mean, I hope not.
I hope not.
But I think that a lot of a lot of the time you're looking at an independent movie, it's just a smaller version of a big movie, and it's not about keeping the independent spirit. It's just about being cheap and then spending the same amount of money to market it. It's just costs so much money. But that's why it's so awesome that people like Occupant are financing films, and they're people my age, and that's why the other awesome thing is that people can just pick up a camera and do their thing. Hopefully, studios will be incentivized to reward those people by paying them handsomely, but not this year.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
You said your age. How old are you?
I'm 32.
32. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I look younger.
All right. No, it's
according to the Chevron station that carded me for smokes.
Wow. All right. That's weird. We're going to turn it over to the crowd for questions. But before we do, obviously, just to answer the one unanswered question in your film, they were trying to do a crossword puzzle. Somebody said 7-letter word for subatomic particle. I'm guessing neutron. Yes?
That sounds correct.
All right, good. Just making sure.
Congratulations.
Don't like unanswered questions. Right there on the aisle, you, ma'am, in the white. Question was, why did you set it in 1994?
Basically, for me, that was, well, first of all, it was the year I graduated high school, so it was what I knew. The old tenet, write what you know. I think if I'd written it for today's day and age, I would have been flailing trying to figure out what was cool and how kids were talking and stuff. So I just, wanted it to be very authentic. So that was the first reason. I wanted to be kind of authentic to my own experience. And the other reason is, I think the coming of age movie has this nostalgic kind of bittersweet thing that allows us to sort of look back and think about our experience in a context. And for me, it was very important to do it with the 90s because I don't think it's been done yet. I think anytime you have an opportunity to do something that hasn't been done yet, it's cool. And I guess the other thing was once I started setting in '94 for the purely fairly arbitrary reason that it was the year I graduated, I started noticing all the different things that were important about it or interesting, whether it's OJ or Kurt Cobain's suicide or Giuliani becoming mayor or the kind of mainstream or crossover appeal of hip hop. It was all important to filling in this backdrop. And the more I was writing it, the more it became felt like the right thing to do.
Right there, you, sir, right behind her. The question was in regards to your pre-visualization process with storyboards, if you have any of that. Just had to repeat for the podcast.
Oh, cool. Are we on a podcast?
Hell yeah, iTunes.
What's up? So basically, my DP and I, we'd worked together in film school, and we don't. If we draw any storyboards, it's really kind of crude stick figure stuff. But usually, we're very hyper prepared all the time, so we shot list extensively. Every shot we knew, before we get onto set that day, because I'm actually on set. Things start to go wrong, and you really need a fallback plan. And then, if things are going right and you don't like your plan, you can feel free to go off of it. But I think one of the things I learned is just to be as hyper prepared as possible. You can't be too prepared. So we would do lists for everything, and sometimes we would do overheads just so we knew where the light was and where the camera was. And we would rarely do actual stick figures unless it became apparent that neither one of us knew what the hell shot we were describing to each other, and then we would start drawing it. But usually it was just a matter of typing it up, and I would write it down. I would type it up in Excel and then kind of sort it by day. I was just very much a nerd about it, and then I would print it out for the whole crew so everyone knew what was going on.
Good question. Right there, you, sir, in the middle. He's an editor. Question was in regards to just your editorial process and paring stuff down.
Basically, we had a very long first cut, and we finished shooting. I think I watched the assembly in October, and the Sundance deadline was mid-December, I guess, or whatever we got an extended deadline. So we had to be very aggressive. That was actually another thing I learned from Paul Schrader, is that you watch the movie with people over and over again. Everyone's very averse to test screenings because they sort of quantify things, but there is a way to test a movie that's not like that, which is just showing it to friends or friends of friends or friends of friends of friends. Like every week we would get kind of 1 degree of separation further away, and just feeling when they get bored and feeling when they laugh and they would fill out cards, but we would never ask them like, on a scale of 1 to 10, as you like, because it would have been like at the first cut, it would have been totally depressing.
I really loved the movie, and after Sundance, to my knowledge, you did cut it a little. How much time?
I cut like 3 minutes. That's
so
it.
What was in that 3 minutes? Because I still can't
it was
tell.
too like at the beach. They were doing more drugs. I just felt like I didn't want to kind of beat people over the head with that. I wanted to be a little
What
pull
else?
back
Any
a little
big
bit.
Scenes?
No, just trim and fat. I can't remember what else I cut. It was definitely a lot in that end sequence. When he goes out to the beach, it was dialogue and stuff like that.
You would think, though, when you win the Audience Award at Sundance, why cut a frame?
Because I got 7 free test screenings. Yeah. I got to watch it with an audience 7 times and see like what wasn't working. So yeah, no, I was. That's a great opportunity.
What was your longest cut of the film? Just again for his question.
I think literally 2.5 hours.
And what is it now?
It's like an hour and a half.
Great job, man.
Yeah.
Seriously. You, sir, right here. Question was, did Sony ask you to cut anything?
I mean, I didn't get final cut either. Like they could have asked me to cut something. They just, I think they are very supportive of filmmakers, and they want to release the movie that the director wants to release. So no, they didn't ask me to cut anything. I told them I wanted to cut stuff, and they were like, "That's cool. We'll watch it and we'll tell you what we think." But there was never any. That's not their style. And they're wonderful that way.
Great. A few more questions. Question was regards, you reference High Times Magazine in the credits.
No, there was a shot where he was reading High Times Magazine that we got rid of. But they did come to interview us on set, and I will tell you that they stink of weed. I was shocked. In the movie, no, it wasn't real. It was a combination of different things. There's a thing called Cold's Foot that you can get, I think, in the back of High Times Magazine. That we used. The props people were experts.
Wait, you've got my curiosity. What is this? It's in the back?
It's called Cold. I think it's like in the back of High
What's
Times
the purpose
Magazine.
of it?
For fake weed, I guess.
So it's like
if
advertising
you want to
to
convince
sell
someone
people?
you're smoking weed, but you're not. I don't know.
Strange.
Or in a movie. I don't know. Probably in a movie is the thing.
All right. I like it. Sorry, you, ma'am, right here. Just to paraphrase, it's an interesting question. Drugs are prevalent throughout the entire movie. And there is no judgment passed one way or another.
Yes.
What is your view on that? And did that inhibit your ability to sell it as a marketable piece of media?
I don't know. I don't know if it did. I mean, I think, like with anything, I think the drugs are there sort of as a tool. Like I don't think of it as kind of like a stoner movie. I think of it as a movie with a bunch of people who are stoned trying to figure their shit out. I don't know. I mean, it's always a fine line. I definitely wanted to be cognizant of not sort of promoting it, but at the same time, I wanted to treat it in a very realistic way, and definitely withhold judgment. I think withholding judgment of your characters, regardless of what their occupations are, regardless, I think is very important, and as much for me as for the actors in the movie. But I don't know. Like I think that. Luckily, no one told me to cut it, or no one told, and I tried to do it in as kind of mature a way as I could, but I'm probably pretty immature.
What's next? To my memory, you're adapting the book The Echelon Vendetta.
I am. I'm going to take a break.
Give us the pitch on that.
It's a CIA. Basically, there's a guy working for the CIA. It's very much like Born Identity, but kind of on acid. I guess it's a little off the beaten path. He's a CIA guy, and he chases. There's a bunch of kind of members of his team that are getting picked off, and he comes thinking he finds out that the well, I don't want to give it away, but it takes him all around the world, and it's a mystery that he unfolds, and it's very exciting.
So have you done a draft? What's the status?
I'm on page 160.
Okay.
So that's
like a
good.
first draft.
Yeah, and I have to deliver it by July 1st, so I just have to cut 40 pages.
Wow. So is that the only thing that you're working on, or is
I'm working on my fantasy baseball team.
good stuff?
What else? No, I mean I'm going around trying to Sony's had me on this press tour, so I'm just going around trying to spread the word about the movie. It's very much sort of passion, and from my heart. So I want to make sure I can do everything I can to promote it. So that's what I've been doing. And I didn't want to grab another job at the expense of that.
Smart man. You've been very generous with your time. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Give it up again for
Thank
Jonathan
you guys.
Levine.
And that's how the Q&A went down. Special thanks again to writer-director Jonathan Levine for spending time with us to discuss his latest film, The Wackness. If you dug this episode of the podcast in general, consider tossing a virtual tip into our PayPal virtual tip jar by visiting www.creativescreenwritingmagazine.blogspot.com and look for the PayPal icon. Your tips are appreciated and definitely help out with equipment, hard drives, and all the other stuff we need to keep this podcast running. Of course, feel free to check out my blog, which I even managed to update on the rare occasion that I have time to do so by visiting www.jeffgoldsmith.blogspot.com. You can also always feel free to drop me a line by emailing me at yo.goldsmith@gmail.com, and I'll do my darndest to get back to you as soon as I can. Of course, don't forget to click that subscribe button in iTunes or your podcatching software, because that's how episodes are downloaded automatically every time you click refresh. And if you have a minute, feel free to leave us positive feedback in the iTunes Music Store or at podcastalley.com. I'm Jeff Goldsmith, Senior Editor for Creative Screenwriting Magazine, thanking you again for tuning in and telling you to stay out of trouble. Till next week.